Hello everyone and welcome back to Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse the Lost Planeswalker, and today we're doing another commander deck based around the up-and-coming set, Murder at Karlov Manor. And this deck is going to be Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. This is the third legendary creature that was revealed and all we have so far, but stay tuned as we get card spoilers coming up. I will be doing a ton more commander decks based around all those legendary creatures. But just so you know, at time of recording, there is 3 of the chapters of Murder at Karlov Manor out so far, and if you are interested in checking those out, please do so. The story seems really fun. I've read the first one. I'm going to read the next 2, so, go ahead and check that out if it would be interesting to you. But starting off, we have Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. 4 black and a red legendary creature demon with flying and trample. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. This is actually probably one of the stronger versions of Rakdos that I'm aware of because of his activated ability. Being able to, force your opponents to sack stuff or have you draw cards is super huge. Now, black and red isn't terrible at card advantage. There's a lot of really good stuff in black, but red really has no good card advantage, I will say. It's all temporary. So this is a really cool ability. It doesn't seem too strong where your opponents are going to have to remove it every turn, but it does seem very, very good, especially if you're in a kingmaker situation where it's just you and an opponent left. You're going to make them sack stuff every turn, or they're just going to draw you extra cards, so they're going to have to make that choice. But let's look into this deck now, and first off, I'm going to talk about Sacrifice Matters cards that sack creatures. You get stuff when stuff's sacrificed, and work through it. And this deck is split up into a bunch of different pieces, but we're going to start here. And the 3 creatures I want to show off is Mayhem Devil, Rakdos the Showstopper, and Terragrid, God of Fright. Mayhem Devil, one of my favorite Ravnican cards. It just says whenever a player sacks a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. This is so cool. This card is played in so many different formats. It's very versatile because it just cares about a player sacking something. It doesn't matter if it's you. It doesn't matter if it's an opponent. You get those triggers, and then you can deal that damage however you like. Next up is Rakdos the Showstopper. Again, the same mana cost with also flying and trample and the same power, which is kind of cool. But whenever Rakdos the Showstopper enters the battlefield, flip a coin. For each creature that isn't a demon, devil, imp, destroy each creature whose coin comes up tails. So this is a really interesting way of mass kind of a board wipe. You got a 50-50 chance of each creature that isn't a demon, devil, or imp, and hint, this deck has a lot of demons in it, so you're pretty safe your board, but you're probably going to take out some of your stuff your opponent wise, and then you can reap some other benefits as well. And then lastly, we have Terragrid, God of Fright, which flips into Terragrid's Lantern as well. But Terragrid, God of Fright is a legendary creature god with menace, and whenever an opponent sacks a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. This is a awesome effect. Obviously, with Rakdos out, our opponents are not going to want to sack their stuff, and we're going to get more cards because if they sack it, we get it. But the flip side, Terragrid's Lantern, is a legendary artifact with tap. Target player loses 3 life unless they sack a non-land permanent or discards a card, and then pay 3 in a black to untap it. So very, very powerful, but I'm going to go through the rest of those Sacrifice Matter cards with Baylor, Bringer of the Last Gift, Living Death, Malfagor, Morgus, God of the Slaughter, Tarian Soulcleaver, and the Balrog of Moria. So this next category is all about demons and devils, and it's mostly demons, but this is kind of the main creatures of our deck, and they're all very powerful. If you haven't checked out demons or just demon tribal in general, there's a lot of really, really great options. But the 3 that I want to show off here are Archfiend of Despair, Bloodthirster, and Harvester of Souls. So Archfiend of Despair has flying, your opponents can't gain life, and at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn, which is very good because it's not we dealt. It's just life in general. So if another opponent, lightning bolts them in the face and that's all they do that turn, they're going to take another 3 damage as well, which basically just exponentially speeds up their life loss, which is great for us. Bloodthirster is next, and this is an awesome card from the 40k commander decks. It has flying trample. Whenever Bloodthirster deals combat damage to a player, untap it. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase, and then Bloodthirster can't attack a player if it has already attacked them this turn, meaning you can get up to 3 additional combats by attacking a different player with Bloodthirster, but you're not sure, if they have some flyers, maybe they can block it, and you're not going to want to attack everyone, but those extra combats are going to be incredible. And lastly, we have Harvester of Souls, creature demon with Death Touch, and whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. This is going to pair perfectly with our commander because as they sack creatures, you can sack anything, but if they're going to sack creatures, we're going to be able to draw cards off of that additionally. So basically, we get the cards whether or not they sack their stuff. And some other demons to check out are Archfiend of Depravity, Bloodletter of Aklizots, Burning Rune Demon, Herald of Slanesh, Carador, Doomscourge, Rakdos, Lord of Riots, Raphael, Fiendish Savior, and Sire of Insanity. So Rakdos is a rather expensive commander at 6 mana, and not the highest, but it's going to take you a while to get it out because there's no mana ramp really in these colors. So what we have here is ritual spells, mana rocks, and some creatures that are going to be able to get you to casting your commander quicker. So in our mana acceleration category, we have Cryptghast, Jessica's Will, and Seething Song. Cryptghast is one of my favorite Ravnica cards, and we did receive a reprint with an anime art if you're interested in that in the new Ravnica Remastered set. But Cryptghast has Extort, which is a cool life gain ability, but also whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an additional black mana to your mana pool, which is going to be pretty incredible actually. That's pretty good. This is awesome in a mono black deck, but works perfectly in 2-color decks as well. Jessica's Will is next, and we choose one. If you control your commander, you can choose 2, but we add a red mana for each card in target opponent's hand, and or can exile the top 3 cards of our library and play them this turn. And Seething Song is a simple ritual spell, which is just add 5 red mana for the cost of 3 red mana, so you get an additional 2 red mana. These are kind of few and far between, so as many of them you can get, the better it can be. But additional cards we have is Arcane Signet, Dark Ritual, Rakdos Signet, Soul Ring, and Solemn Simulacrum. Now, before we start talking about graveyard interaction cards and the rest of the cards in this deck, I just want to say if you aren't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I am so hyped for this Murder at Karlov Manor's set, and I really want to show you as much as possible. So if you are interested in this, or just like my content in general, please stay tuned. I'm going to be putting out as many videos as I can as this set comes out, so please stay tuned for that. But now let's look at some graveyard interaction cards. And starting out, we have Chainer, Nightmare Adept, Phyrexian Reclamation, and Reanimate. Chainer, Nightmare Adept is a legendary creature human minion. Discard a card. You may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. Activate only once each turn. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until your next turn. Chainer is a great way to get some of those big demons onto the battlefield. Whether we pitch them or, we're just trying to get some more cards in hand or on the battlefield, this is an awesome card. But one of my favorite cards ever printed, and I think it's solely underplayed, is Phyrexian Reclamation. For a single black, you get an enchantment, which has 1 and a black, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So for the cost of 2 mana and 2 life, you can just return creatures to your hand, which is super great, and is exceptionally good because it is not a tap ability, meaning you can do this as many times as you want a turn, assuming you have the mana and the life. But in addition to that, you can return key essential creatures. Maybe you're not playing a Rakdos deck but a different deck, and you have creatures that you sack to get some benefit. You can just give them back over and over again with this card. It's one of my favorite cards ever printed, and it's only around $5, so it's well worth the cost. And lastly, we have Reanimate. Sorcery, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. We do have some bigger demons, which is going to be harder to cast, so having this on the battlefield is going to be great. But this is just such a cool card. And in addition to that, some of the other graveyard interaction cards we have are Anger, Animate Dead, Entomb, Kolga's Command, Cruxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, and Malakir Rebirth, which also flips into Malakir Mire. But one of the key things that we wouldn't be playing a Rakdos deck without is removal. Rakdos is one of those colors which has pretty good removal for almost anything, and it's quite cheap because that's what black and red do best. So the cards I want to show off are Blasphemous Act, Rakdos Charm, and Rakdos Return. Blasphemous Act is a sorcery. You guys have seen it. It's put in a ton of precons, but I just want to call it out because it's great. This spell costs 1 less for each creature card on the battlefield, and then it deals 13 damage to each of those creatures. So for essentially 1 red mana, you can deal 3 damage and wipe the board. But Rakdos Charm, one of my favorite, probably favorite charm, because we get to choose one, exile target player's graveyard, destroy target artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. Now, I know I've been in situations where my opponent has had way more creatures on the board than I can count, and in this case, Rakdos Charm would just kill them immediately, which is great. But also being able to exile target player's graveyard, maybe you have a graveyard player at the table, this is great graveyard hate, and also it's versatile in destroying an artifact. But the last card, which I don't think is played very often, but is kind of fun, is Rakdos Return. X black and a red. Sorcery, Rakdos return deals X damage to target opponent. That player discards X cards. So if we use our mana ramp, and maybe there's 1 or 2 players left, we can kind of leave them entirely empty-handed while dealing a ton of damage to their face, which is a really cool effect that you don't see a lot. So this is a pretty neat card. I don't think it's played a lot, but I think it's worth looking into. And some of the other cards I think you should include are Abrade, Bitter Triumph, Chaos Warp, Dead Boar, Feed the Swarm, Torment of Hailfire, Toxic Deluge, and Vandal Blast. But this last category, as always, is good stuff, and there is a lot of good stuff in this category. But what I'd like to show off are some cards that are just going to help you out, like Bolas's Citadel, Ilburis, the Blinding Blade, which transforms into Witheringer Unbound, and Roaming Throne. Bolas's Citadel is a legendary artifact that lets us look at the top card of our library at any time. You may play the top card of your library. If you can cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than its mana cost. Then you can sack 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. There's a lot to do with this card, but basically it's going to help us get stuff off the top of our library, which is great. Now, Ilburis, the Binding Blade, is a sick legendary artifact equipment that I would like to put in a deck, and I've never done it before, but I think this is a good one to do it with, because we have Trample on our commander, which is pretty great. But equipped creature gets +1/+0 whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, unattach it, and then transform it. And it transforms into Witheringer Unbound, legendary creature demon with flying, intimidate, and trample. Whenever a player loses the game, put 13 +1/+1 counters on it. This alone could end a player and then additionally put that many counters on it. So this is an awesome card, especially because it's a demon. This is something that we really care about and is going to be super good in this deck. But the last card, the Roaming Throne, obviously is an amazing card. It's a $20 card right out of the gate, and it's probably only going to go up from there. So if you're interested in picking up a copy, I would probably suggest you do so. But it's a legendary creature golem with Ward 2. As the Roaming Throne enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Demon, probably. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. Perfect for us. If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. We have so many powerful demons in this deck, and they really all have amazing activated abilities. So this is just going to be so powerful and just put our opponents way down. So this is definitely a card I would include in this deck. But some of the other good stuff cards I have are Deadly Dispute, Decadent Dragon, Deflecting Swat, Faithless Looting, Havoc Festival, Lightning Greaves, Orcish Bowmaster, Professional Facebreaker, Shieldred the Apocalypse, Sign in Blood, and Valkyrie Awakening. And that is it for my Rakdos Patrons of Chaos deck. I hope you enjoyed this, but I would really like to know what you thought of it. Was there a card that you never knew existed that I put in this deck and you're like, well, of course, I have to buy this card now? Or did it all just suck? Did you say, this is a terrible deck? I would put this, and this in it instead. I would love to know. I've been building these decks, and these newer decks are harder because there isn't as much research out there and great cards already called out. So if you would let me know down in the comments down below, that would be amazing. But also, if you aren't subscribed, that would also be awesome of you. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a ton of videos covering all sorts of stuff for Murder at Karlov's Manor. This is probably my favorite set of the year. I love Ravnica, and since I've been playing the game, I haven't been able to experience a Ravnica set myself, so I'm super hyped and very much looking forward to that. And one last thing, if you would please share this video with a friend and leave a like, that helps me get this video and the word out, and that would just be amazing of you. So thank you. And today's Scryfall card of the day is Teferi's Isle. The 3 wizards knew only that this isle held a great mystery, and that the patience alone would solve it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.